Hey, Patrick. Wow, this is such a cool platform. Thanks for sharing this with me. This is really cool. I'll get to the questions. So, I'm a public speaking coach, which means that I help people speak with confidence, clarity, and impact. I work very often with the C suite at fast growing companies where they need to make sure that they're showing up with authenticity, clarity, and they're making an impact, whether they're speaking on a big stage or in the boardroom. And I also work with solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants to help them build thought leadership every single time they speak anywhere on a podcast, in a sales call, or doing a webinar, recording their own course. That's the kind of work that I do. I'm also a 3-time TEDx speaker, and I'm a LinkedIn learning instructor. I also just taught an MBA class on public speaking in Hungary for the Central European University. So a lot of my life revolves around speaking and on helping others speak with more power. So in 2022, I was working 2 jobs. I was a full-time filmmaker, commercial film director, where I was creating commercials for Asian companies looking to create content for US and European markets. And I was also a full-time PR director. So I was working with the CEOs who were being interviewed at media outlets like the BBC and TechCrunch. And neither one of those was fulfilling. I never felt like a filmmaker. I know how to do PR, but that was not really my calling. And I was about to turn 40, so I wanted to make sure that I figured out what it was that I wanted to do in life. And my husband pointed out, you love speaking on stages. It's the one thing that you've done for decades without ever thinking about turning it into a living. So why don't you? Why don't you think of a way to turn this passion that you have for speaking on stage and speaking on camera into a living? That was the first time I had ever considered it. So I started first just feeling it out, putting posts out there, figuring out what I needed to do to get traction, to raise my profile from being invisible, being a nobody, to being someone that people can look up to as an authority in the space. Because I had the experience. I had 17 years of speaking on any stage I could find, from tiny little storytelling events to the TEDx stage. And I had worked behind and in front of the camera again for almost a decade. But what I had to do was take all the experiences I had gained through these different career paths and weave it into how I can help someone achieve the same results in a much shorter period of time. For me, it comes down to making a difference. So on the professional front, I want to make a difference. I want to do something that's meaningful. That's why I gave up a marketing role in a Fortune 500 company, because I couldn't figure out how I was making a difference by marketing products. It's why I gave up a career as a filmmaker, because again, I was creating these commercials. And yes, hopefully they were helping people, but it was so far removed from anything I could see as a result of work that I had done that it didn't feel like I was making a difference. So coaching, helping others gain confidence in their own expertise, to be able to speak about it with confidence and clarity, that feels very meaningful to me, because I get direct feedback from people whose lives I'm changing for the better. I get emails from clients who I've worked with a year ago, and they say, Nausheen, the things we worked on, I can still see the difference in how I'm showing up based on the work we did a year ago. And that makes you feel like all the years and decades that you spent gathering this experience so that you can help someone else do it better, do it faster. It really justifies that. So that's on the professional front. The same principle applies for me on the personal front. I want to make a difference. I want to have friends who challenge me and excite me and stimulate me. I want to make a difference with every interaction that I have, every relationship that I create. I want it to be significant in some way, both to me and to the other person. People have a very dated and a very limited idea of what public speaking is. A lot of people think it's just speaking on a big stage, speaking behind a podium, but your communication skills actually serve you every single second of every single day because you're always communicating, whether it's with your team, with your clients, with your management, with people that are in your network, your collaborators. You're communicating in so many ways, and very often now it's in a way that is removed because we are working in this hybrid world. So we have less data on what someone's body language could be like. We have less data on even being able to read people's faces when they're not even on camera. So communication has become a lot more challenging just because of the way that we are working now. And so poor communication skills are even more of a risk, even more damaging at the moment. So the biggest misconception is that public speaking only applies to these random occasions once a year, but actually anytime you speak to a group of people, you're speaking in public. So what I do, how I challenge that is I want you to reframe what public speaking is so that you're always focusing on getting the message across in the most powerful and impactful way, regardless of whether you're speaking to a group of 2, 20, 200, 2,000, 200,000. When I was a filmmaker, one of the first projects that we did was a complete failure. So this was the biggest project we'd taken on so far. We were a very young team, and we had thought that we had involved this client all the way from the script to the storyboard to the actual shoot. Turns out that the client was just phoning it in. They were letting us be the experts, which is a big red flag because it means that we never got their actual input on any of the stages till it was too late. So they hated the actual end product, and by that time we had already spent the budget. We had shot something they didn't like. They didn't end up using it, and it felt like a big failure in terms of not just my effort, but the effort of the entire team who worked on the project. And from that, I took away the very hard lesson that very often the onus of communication is on you. If you are responsible for something happening, then you have to make sure that not only were you clear in your communication, but that the audience understood. And very often the audience will not tell you that they didn't understand. So it's up to you to figure out what people aren't seeing. And the best communicators can do that. They can tell when input is low from team members. They can tell when someone is just listening superficially, not really understanding. They can tell when someone is shy and won't ask you a question even though they didn't understand what you said. So you have to be the superior skilled person in that conversation. And the way to do that is being not just a great communicator, but also a fantastic listener, going beyond words, listening to body language, observing things like facial expressions, micro expressions, cues, vocabulary that people are using. You can find me on speaking.coach. That's www.speaking.coach. And I share a lot of resources there, including a free course on how to become a more confident speaker. So all you have to do is go to the website and sign up, and you'll get this free course that is based on 17 years of experience in speaking on camera and on stage.